Hey everybody, welcome back to Modeling from the Ensign's Chair. This is episode 7 of the Enterprise Refit Smoothie build that I'm working on. Last episode when I left off, I had talked about some Raython lighting effects, and I actually started planning out how I'm going to start lighting the ship. So this episode I want to focus on going over some of the different lighting, some of the different techniques for lighting it up. We're going to actually start wiring the lights. I've actually done a little bit of wiring already. But I'll go over that when we look at it. So give me a second, put you on the table, we'll get to work. Alright guys, so you can see what we got here. I've got a nice primer coat. I'm using the, to me, a fine surface primer. That's what I always use on here. I've got my first primer coat on here. It looks pretty good so far. And I've actually started lighting the interior using my LED tape. So I've got some of that set up already, and I'll pull this off so you can see what I've got. But I've got a outer ring and an inner ring. I've got an outer ring to provide lighting to all of the external windows, and I've got this inner ring to kind of help provide light to the forward and aft spotlights on both sections. And I should have mentioned last time, there's a couple different ways you can do the Raython lighting. There's two main ones really that people use, and one is to just like I had showed in mine, I kind of blocked off the sections I wanted to keep light shining through and painted over it. The other option is some people will use foil tape. And it's a good option. It does an excellent job of light blocking. The one thing you got to be careful of when you use the foil tape is just keep in mind that foil is conductive. So if you're doing any of these connections, and I've got a couple spots where I've stripped the wire a little more than I needed to. If those wires come into contact with the foil, it'll short it out. So just keep that in mind if you're going to go that route and use the foil tape. I've opted to just do the paint, and on this side, because you do still get a little bit of bleed through with these LEDs directly under the saucer section, I've elected to actually, and this isn't foil tape, this is actually chrome, I think it's called chrome duct tape. So it gives you a nice reflection on there. And that's actually, I've decided to line the top section of the saucer. I've got a couple spots. You might not show up on camera. But I've got a couple of bleed through spots still from where the LEDs are sitting directly under the top part of the saucer. So I'll just cut out some more pieces and I'll block that off, and that should work out pretty well. But I'll show you where I'm at right now with this. Get this saucer section lined up. I'm going to turn this light off, and hopefully it's not too dark. Alright, so I think the camera's adjusted and you can see that lighting. I still got to work on the impulse crystal, which is the back section back here. And then I've got this lighting for the Enterprise logo, or for the registry back here. And then I've got my forward spotlight for registry. So it's looking pretty good. I've still got a couple little sections around the edge that don't even show up on camera, I don't think, but I can see them sitting here where the light's bleeding through the top because those LEDs sit right under that. Let me flip it over so we can see what this under section looks like. And again, you can see on there we've got that forward spotlight and also that rear spotlight for where the Enterprise logo will be. One thing about this bottom part, some people will do all three spotlights lighting up, and that's fine. I've seen different photos. It really is your choice as to how you want to do it. Some people do all three. I've elected to only do the forward because most of the shots I've seen, that it's really only that forward lower spotlight that's highlighting that registry that you see. But I think on my 1350 I actually did all three. I just decided to do a little different this time and just do that forward on this one. And again, there's that forward on this one. So you can see how that Raython lighting is turning out. It really does help light that up better. So I've got the Raython lighting pretty much set up for the saucer section. Got a little more work to do on the impulse crystal back here. Let me unplug this. And what I want to work on next is I'm going to work on doing the antenna controls kit, which I've got right here. I'm going to move this out the way a second. And what you get with the antenna controls kit, it's quite a bit of stuff, and when you first look at it, it can be a little intimidating with all the stuff you've got to work with. Of course, you've got the control board which I've still got in plastic. I'm not going to take out yet. You've got your switches that they send out, and they send some shrink wrap, some shrink tubing, which I'll put that to use. But the majority of the stuff that I want to focus on is they send you some ribbon wire, and I will use this because that way I know these wires are different from the wire that I'm using for my main lighting, which is the LED strips and the LEDs that I'm going to be supplementing. So that'll let me know that this is the actual antenna controls board wiring, and this is the wiring that I'm using for my own supplemental LEDs. So it's nice they send you that. They actually send you the blue chiller LED strips. I will not be using these because I am lighting my chiller grills purple. So I'll be saving these for probably when I do my my 1701A model somewhere down the road, probably 2 or 3 years from now. I'll get around to it, but I'll use those when I do that. And then they've got all your LEDs. They got your green LEDs. You really need to keep them in the package when you get them because you can't really tell the difference between them because they're all clear. They're not colored green. So, but it will light green. Your red LEDs, and then they've got your amber LEDs and your bicolor LED for your deflector dish. So be putting those to use. And then it also comes with the resistors you need. And the good thing about this kit is all your LEDs use the same resistor, so you don't have to worry about figuring out what ohm resistor to use. And I'll probably talk a little bit about the ohm, using the ohms and figuring out what ohm resistance you need on the resistor to when I start using my supplemental LEDs. Then you've got your white LEDs, and I've got to figure out, I haven't really had a chance to look through the directions yet, but these are, you got 2 that are different from the rest of the LEDs, and I'm sure when I start looking at the directions it'll become clear as to why those are different. But at any rate, there's all my LEDs, my resistors, and my instructions for lighting it. So the next thing I'm going to work on is I'm going to work on getting these LEDs. I'm going to show you how I do these LEDs as far as wiring them up. I actually, when I do these LEDs, will use fiber optics rather than shaving down the LED and getting it to fit through that hole. I'll actually hot glue, and I'll show you how I do that, but I hot glue fiber optic to it. And this is 0.06 inches side glow fiber optic. You want side glow fiber optic for your navs and your strobes because otherwise if you use just like an end glow, you're only going to get light from the end. But your side glow will work just like, it'll look just like a light bulb sticking up out of your hole. So I use side glow plastic. Again, that's 0.06 inch for that. I've also got 0.03 inch end glow fiber optic, which I will use for the lights on the back. The lights on the back of my my hatch, or my docking port on the back of the bridge. I'll use it for that. I'll use it for the lights on the tips of your fins here. I'll use it to light that up, just like I did on my Reliant model. But I'll use it for different things. So I've got that too that I'll keep and use. But other than that, the thing you're going to run into though, and the whole reason I did this smoothie build is because it's a little bit different with the smoothie build than with the current release of the 1537. So as you can see with the 1537, you've already got your holes for those navs and strobes in there, so it makes it a lot easier to just and I believe I don't know if those will fit up through there yet or not. I haven't tried, but it looks like they'll fit pretty close. But on the smoothie, you don't have those holes. So what I've done is I've marked in red where I want to put my strobe lights, and I'm going to put them right at the juncture of the panel lines. Now really, ideally your lights, your navs would be in this gap right here, this space on the edge of the saucer. The problem with the 1537 is your lower saucer mates up right there. And I could probably still thin out this wall and fit a fiber optic in there, but I really just don't want to. I really don't want to do that. So I'm just going to do the best I can with it, and I'm going to just put it at that juncture where those panel lines are. I'm just going to drill a hole right there for that fiber optic to fit through. And you can see on the where they put them at on the current release is way off from the edge of the saucer. So you've got it's off quite a bit on these. So I'm going to drill these right at the juncture of those grid lines on the edges, all 3 locations. The bottom side is easier because you've got that wide band there to stick your lights, and they've actually got bumps here. I don't know why it's only on the bottom and only on the 2 navs, but they've actually got bumps there for where the lights go. So I'm going to sand those off and drill a hole right there to put my fiber optic through, and that's how I'm going to get my my navs in there. So I'm going to work on that, and once I get 1 or 2 of these done, I'll come back and show you how I did it, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so I've got started wiring up some of my LEDs, and you can see it's wired up there. The resistor goes on the short leg there, which is the negative side. And if you don't know how to solder, please go check out some videos. I'm not really going to get into it because I'm not too great at soldering myself. I'm still kind of polishing up my skills for soldering. So if you want to learn how to solder, there's plenty of videos out there by people that are definitely better suited to teach you how to solder than I am. So that being said, I've got my LED soldered, and there's different ways people do the lighting on their models. Like I said, I like to use fiber optics because some of these spots you get into on these models, especially the smaller the scale you go to, like these 1.537s, it can get kind of tight in some spots. So what I do is, once I've got my LED wired up and soldered, and we can power it on. And just as a note, when I wire these up, first thing I do before I do anything else, because I'm going to end up wrapping this up and you're not going to be able to tell where the which side is negative, which side is positive, is I always mark my positive wire with a red Sharpie. So that way I always know, once I've got this wrapped up and installed, when I look at the end of these wires, I know that's my positive, and one without any markings on it is my negative. So what I do is, I just take a short little piece of my fiber optic, not very long, about that long. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to use my helping hands here to hold this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this, get a little tighter up so we get a better grip on here. I'm going to get this lined up. Get this lined up to where that fiber optic is making contact with the LED, just like that. And you want it on the tip, not on the side, because more light comes out the tip of this than it does on the sides. I made the mistake when I first started doing this of trying to solder, or not solder, but stick a number of these fiber optics to one LED, and it didn't work out too well. I ended up with one that would be really bright, and the other 2 I tried to put on there would be really dim. So just keep that in mind. Just one LED, one fiber optic. And I've got my glue gun here, my hot glue gun. And what I'll do is I'll take some and I'll just put a little bit on there to start. And what I'll do is I'll hold it and let that hot glue kind of wrap around that fiber optic. And a little bit of time, I'll add just a little bit more to it. You really want this hot glue to kind of wrap around the entire LED, including you want it to grab the back end of the LED as well. Because if you don't, this fiber optic, I've had problems where if I didn't make sure the hot glue got all the way around the base of the LED, the fiber optic would just pull right out. And it's not a good thing to have happen when you after you've installed this, because then you've got to take it back out again. Yep, but we're just going to let that hot glue sit there and wrap around and grab a hold of that fiber optic. And what it'll look like when it's done is it'll almost look like one huge bulb that's got this fiber optic embedded in it. I've heard people drill out the fiber optic or the LED bulb to fit the fiber optic in. I'd rather not do that because then you risk damaging the LED itself. So I've used this on my 135 or 1350 over here, and I also use this technique on my 1537 Reliant that I've got a video posted up of, and it's worked out pretty well for me. I think that's about good, and you'll see that's what it'll look like. Almost looks like another, just a larger glass bulb wrapped around that fiber optic. And I'm gonna let that set up for a minute and let it harden, so that way I don't mess anything up when I go to take it out of the helping hands there. But once I do that, once that's nice and hardened, I'll take some electrical tape. I'll show you on this one I already did. And what I'll do is I'll wrap it. I've actually got a little bit of white electrical tape down the bottom here. I wrap that bulb, that whole bulb that where we put that bead at, I'll wrap all that in black electrical tape, and that's so we don't get any light bleed, because the last thing you're going to want is, these are red bulbs, and then of course the other side will be green, is you don't want that red light bleeding through, and the next thing you've got your windows here on the side of the saucer, and you'll have that red light bleeding through. You don't want that. So what I'll do is I'll take some electrical tape and I'll wrap that entire LED and make sure no light is leaking from there. The only light that should be coming through is from the fiber optic itself. And then what I'll do later on is when I go put this in, I'll hot glue it in place, and you can see I've hot glued it there. I put a little bit in the middle here, and then I've hot glued it at the end where the fiber optic actually passes through the top of the saucer. And what I'll do is I'll come back with just some black paint and a paintbrush, and I'll just black that hot glue out so I don't get a light leak here. And then all you'll get is that light coming out of your fiber optic on this end. So it's worked out pretty well for me. You know, a couple of the advantages of doing it this way is you don't have to worry about bending the connections on your LED and possibly breaking it. Just having this one strand, because you're going to have, especially on the saucer part, you're going to have this connection here, and then right under it you're going to have to stick another LED bulb right through here, and they're going to be right on top of each other. So it makes it a lot easier to be able to take this and position my LED towards the back. What I'll typically do is I'll alternate. I'll position one with the leads going towards the back, and when I do the bottom, I'll position it so the leads are going towards the front, so I've got more room there to work with. It doesn't take up as much room. Let's see, is this done? Yeah. All right, so once that hot glue is set up, that's what you got. You got your LED, and it's got that fiber optic sticking out. That's nice and solid. So like I said, what I'll do then is I'll take a piece of electrical tape. Cut it. And then I'll stick it in between the wires to make sure that my negative and my positive wires are insulated between each other. And I will just take this tape, and I will start wrapping all the way up past where that bulb is, and just pinch it tight around the fiber optic end. So what you end up with is something that looks like this. It's not pretty, but like I said, I've done it this way several times, and it's worked for me. And we'll just test it out real quick before we install it, make sure it's working good. This is where it comes in handy that I've marked the positive and negative. So and you're not going to be able to see it too well with the light on, but let me turn this light off. And there you go. There's your side glow fiber optic. Now all I got to do is install it in the saucer section, and that'll light up. So we've tested that. I've already done the top, so this one's going to go in the bottom. And we're going to make sure that we stick this on the correct side. So all I'm going to do is stick the fiber optic. I've already drilled the hole. I'm just going to stick the fiber optic through the hole there, and it's going to stick out. And then all I got to do is, let's see, I did that one to the rear, so this one needs to go towards the front. And now we're just going to make sure I got this good. Just going to hot glue this in place. Uh-oh. Ran out of hot glue, I need a new stick. Always remember when making a video, be prepared. Alright. So now bead that right there. And now I got another stick here, put another bead right there. And we'll hold that and let that dry and harden. Oops. On my finger there. I keep putting my finger in it. Alright. And sometimes it takes a minute for this hot glue. I need to put another bead right there. Yeah, it should be good. Alright. Pretty good right there. And I'll do that for all my nabs in the front saucer section here, and then I'll wire them all as needed. I gotta look at the instructions here. I don't recall if I think they're all just wired together. They all flash at the same rate. So, but this is what the fun that is the Tenna Controls board. So a lot of work to do there. And let's check this one more time. Turn this light off. And let's see what we got here. And there you go. There's your light. And the other great thing about this is, other than being able to fit these LEDs in the tight spaces, is I can paint. I can go ahead and continue to do my painting, and if I get paint on the fiber optic, it's not going to matter, because I'm just going to cut this down. After I get done all my painting, I'll cut this down to size, and your light will be right there. So you don't have to worry about if you get any paint on or that, because you're just going to cut the LED or the fiber optic down. So a lot of good advantages to doing it this way. Like I said, it's not the only way, but it's my way of doing it. And hopefully maybe you'll get some use out of some of the information that I gave you as far as how I do mine. There's different ways to do it. So that's going to be what I'm going to be working on for the next couple days at least. And when I come back for the next episode, hopefully I'll have all these navs in on the saucer, and we'll start looking at doing our LEDs for the our spotlights on the top and on the bottom. And I'll have to start looking at how we're going to do that crystal there for the impulse deck. and we'll figure all that out. But until next time, keep modeling.